Hello, planet Earth. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK, my BFF Jill 730.
My BFF Jill 730.
I'm Preston L. Young, Miss Jackson if you're nasty. Wishing you warm salutations and congratulations as always, you've made your way to the Buffington Post.
You are invited!
Today I'll be continuing my Season 9 coverage of the Buffyverse with our Season 9 wrap-ups, this one focusing on going back to basics. Yes, in Season 9 we are introduced to a man who is tasked with not only stripping the Buffyverse of the rest of its magic, but also somehow compiling that magic and putting it back out into the verse. And while you may think that I'm talking about Severin the Siphon, I'm actually talking about our new writer for Season 9, who is Andrew Chambliss. And so without further ado, let's explore the meta of magic in Season 9 in bringing things back to basics. Here we go.
The time has come!
Superhero, or even if I tumble fall,
Many people were not satisfied with Season 8, and I'm not one of them. I really enjoyed Season 8. It had its ups and downs, but overall I found it to be a very fun ride and a very exciting ride, as it is our first full season in the comic books, right? However, in Season 9, we are introduced to a new writer who basically does the entirety of Buffy Season 9, and his name is Andrew Chambliss. Now, Andrew Chambliss inherited Buffy at quite possibly its lowest point. Again, the fan fervor for Season 8 wasn't entirely positive, and I must say that trying to pick up in the Buffyverse and run it when it's lost its defining element, magic, seems pretty daunting. However, the meta of Season 9 goes really kind of into weird and intriguing, kind of fascinating routes in regard to Andrew Chambliss and the person who I feel is his proxy, being Severin the Siphon. Now, in my Season 8 wrap-up videos, I talked about how Willow is kind of a proxy for the audience, that you can look at Willow and her experience and kind of relate that to the experience of we, the audience, going through Season 8 comics. And I feel like the same can be said of Severin the Siphon. I really feel like he is almost an avatar for Andrew Chambliss. In the beginning of Season 9, Buffy believes that, not having magic is going to make her life hunky-dory, right? And here's this guy who is there in the thick of it, taking all of the magic away. This guy being Severin, but also really being Andrew Chambliss. But we come to find that maybe the whole, not having magic and having this guy suck out all the magic is not the most fun. And so a lot of people, by the third arc of Season 9, when we get to the whole robot abortion thing, they're not too happy with the Buffy book, and we're also not the biggest fan of Severin's. And what we have here is we have Severin. He's out here sucking up all of the magic that's left in the Buffyverse, and that's basically the task that Andrew Chambliss has in front of him. His whole thing is to bring things back to basics by stripping away all of the fantastical magic of the world, but still having to deal with the idea of the Slayer. And so, in the first arc, we get this bad guy, and he seems like he's totally cool, and he's taken everything off of our shoulders, which feels great for Buffy, because, again, magicless world, no magic, no problems, right? But then, of course, by the end of the first arc, we see that he's totally the bad guy, and not only is he the bad guy, but he's hooked up with another bad guy. Now, again, the whole, Season 9 robot abortion thing, some of you don't like it. I think it's fine. I actually think it's pretty fucking beautiful, but that's just me. I don't speak for you. And so, due to the fact that people were really turned off by this pregnant barista robot, not a robot, abortion, not an abortion thing, they were looking at Buffy and kind of giving it the side eye, like, okay, what are you really doing with this? And so the same way that we're looking at Andrew Chambliss is the same way that we're looking at Severin, like, really, what are you doing in here? And the interesting thing about this is we have like no magic in the world, and yet we still need to make it the Buffyverse. And the most interesting thing about the Buffy mythology is the Slayer mythology. And the only real layover that we have from season 8 to season 9 is not just the destruction of magic, but really the idea of all of these slayers that Buffy has put out there. And the only one that we're really dealing with a whole lot in season 9 of Buffy per se is Simone Doppler. And so Andrew Chambliss and team, I can't give him complete credit because, of course, Buffy is run by committee, obviously. But what they do very smartly is they not only use Simone as a plot device, but they use Simone as a partner for Severin. This allows for Andrew Chambliss to align himself with the old parts of the Buffyverse and bringing them into this new world where Simone really does still have a grudge against Buffy. And so we've got the Zompires, we've got Simone, and her motives are obviously like get rid of Buffy, but the way that she wants to do this isn't very clear until the very end of the season. But by bringing in Simone, it allows for that season 8 flavor to still kind of be there, and it allows us to still have these greater conversations about the ideology of the Slayer. We have Simone, and she sits way over here in her ideology, whereas Buffy is way over here in... Buffy's ideology is basically ours. Like, we look at the idea of the Slayer through Buffy's eyes, because of course it is her property. But by allowing for that same kind of dynamic between the characters to, again, lay over into season 9, it makes us feel like even though things are really different, not a whole hell of a lot has really changed when it comes to these opposing forces. Now, after Chambliss and team use Simone to basically get Buffy back into her body and out of the robot body, we have an entire arc wherein, by the end, Buffy says, okay, I get it now, I need to go and be the Vampire Slayer. And what Chambliss is able to do is kind of give us a new kind of mythology for the Vampire Slayer when it comes to Billy. We have all of this kind of idea about what it means to be the Slayer and all these preconceived notions, but what Billy does is he comes in and he basically pulls a rug out from under you, because this whole time you could have been a Slayer, you just had to choose to be, even if you're a dude with no, precognition and super strength and, super agility, etc. What Chambliss does is he reminds the audience that we are all Slayers, and that's very smart, and it allows for Buffy to get back to basics as far as realizing what's important and what's at stake in the Buffyverse, but it also allows for the readers to feel a bit more at home and a bit more like, okay, all hope is not lost. After introducing this new kind of layer to the Slayerhood, we are brought back to the magic of the Buffyverse through Illyria. Now, Illyria, the interesting thing about this is, just as Severin uses Illyria to kind of further his own goals, Chambliss himself uses Illyria for what Illyria represents, the raw power of the Buffyverse. This is very smart on the Buffy writers' parts, in that we have this book in IDW, Angel Reality, about Illyria regaining its complete and total power and kind of returning to a god kind of state, you know what I mean? And by introducing Illyria back into Buffy Season 9, Chambliss, as well as Severin, is able to take what Illyria represents and the deeper well that comes with the Illyria mythology and kind of concentrate all of that magic back into one place, which is the really fascinating thing about Season 9. It looks like all hope is lost, and it's all up to Willow to maybe save us, but it's not about Willow. The fans can't save us. The mythology of the Buffyverse can't really save us. It takes a vessel, and this vessel is Andrew Chambliss as Severin. What he does throughout Season 9 is he explores all of the different magics that are out there left in the Buffyverse, whether they be the Slayers or Illyria or Simone and all of that other good stuff, and allows us to look at them, revisit them, and essentially collect and concentrate them into a single spot, which reintroduces magic into the Buffyverse. Personally, I feel that Buffy Season 9 could have gone 30 issues and really kind of explored more of the dire situation that Dawn is in, or maybe had a little bit more time with Willow back and not being able to really do anything. But what it does very smartly is it takes everything from every corner of the Buffyverse. We have the Magic Council, which is going to play a huge role in Season 10. We have Simone, who had, leftover demons from Season 8. We have Severin, this very new presence, and we have Buffy herself, and all of the different corners of magic are kind of brought together, and Illyria and all of the mythos around that character and that, again, very raw power allow for the Buffyverse to actually come back to basics in a way that doesn't feel cheap and it doesn't feel like we've been cheated. You can argue about the Dawn situation, but really what we have here is a team of writers and our head writer collecting everything and giving it back to us in a way that we can really understand and digest slowly and surely. And I feel like that is the magical meta of Season 9. It's everything you thought you didn't want. The idea of Twilight in Season 8 was that vampires had taken over. And when we get into Season 9, by this point we have things like The Walking Dead and, Zombieland and things like this, and the zombie craze is kind of taking over. And what Chambliss and crew do is they use the zombie craze to be a comment on where the Buffyverse finds itself. The Buffyverse is in a state of undeadness. It's not got any life in it, doesn't have that magic in it, and they kind of beat us over the head with this lifeless world until we're finally ready to put all the pieces together in order to bring that life back into the Buffyverse, which allows for a pretty stellar Season 10, if you ask me. We'll explore a little bit more of the meta of Season 9 when we talk about Buffy herself, but as far as the meta of magic, Andrew Chambliss does a really good job of using Severin as, again, how I personally feel, a proxy for himself. The man who it all kind of falls upon, and the man who seems like a bad guy but ends up saving us all. And now, keep in mind, Andrew Chambliss and Georges Genty are not involved with Season 10 at all. It's all done by Rebecca Isaacs and Christos Cage, which is pretty fascinating. And I will say it's interesting that we lose our writer and our animator being Chambliss and Genty, and we also lose Severin, who I'm arguing is a proxy for the writing, as well as Illyria, whose magic allows for the new animation of magic. And so that's pretty much all I've got for today, you guys. I know this is kind of short when I'm talking about like wrap-up videos, but I really do feel like Andrew Chambliss and Severin are one and the same, and I think it's very smart how the Season 9 Buffyverse goes about putting itself back together and really and truly bringing us back to basics, even though those basics aren't any that we're necessarily familiar with when we get into Season 10. But let me know what you thought of the Season 9 meta and magic and Severin and Illyria and Simone and all of that in the comment section down below. I'm Preston L. Young. I hope you're having a great 2016 so far, everybody. You can come right back here to the Buffington Post anytime. I've got Buffy the Vampire Slayer reviews, Angel and Faith reviews, Buffyverse discussions on the other Slayers, and more. Have a great day today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Got no need for the fancy things, all the attention that it brings. Tell me no.